Let me ask you a question. What kind of man do you want to be? Do you want to be the first kind of man that keeps his head down, doesn't speak unless spoken to, and generally stays in his own lane? Or do you want to be the second kind of man that walks into a room and instantly commands attention, the kind of man that other men want to be like and women dream of? I guess it's really easy to pick what kind of man you want to be when I phrase it like that, isn't it? After all, who wouldn't want to be the second kind of man? But then tell me this. Why aren't most men the second kind of man that I describe? It's not like I said anything we don't all inherently want. We all want to be liked, to be admired, looked up to, and loved by the opposite sex. Ultimately, as men, we all want the same thing, but we don't all get the same thing. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think I know why. There's 3 reasons I've come up with for why men don't get what they want in life. And if you can do these 3 things effectively, you'll be a quality man that women want and other men want to be like. So the first thing is to hold yourself to higher standards. Let me ask you something. What kind of qualities would you want in a business partner? Would you want your business partner to be lazy, unreliable, someone who's never on time and can't be trusted? Probably not, right? Most likely you want the opposite of those qualities, like someone who is reliable, disciplined, hardworking, trustworthy, honest, just to name a few. See, that's exactly the same qualities that someone else wants from their business partner. And these are the exact same qualities that women are looking for in a man as well. A quality man, might I add. Les Brown says, you don't get what you want in life, you get what you are. So if that's the case, then I say if you want better, become better. If you hold yourself to higher standards, you'll be able to attract quality people like this as well. Who else would quality people prefer to hang out with? Other quality people. That's just fact. It seems logical to me. How many quality people do you know that hang out with bums and lazy people who aren't going anywhere in life? My guess is probably none. So step 1 is to raise your standards. Step number 2 is to use fear to your advantage. Fear is an incredibly powerful and often overlooked motivator. The reason I say this is because most people avoid things they fear, but we deeply admire the people who overcome their fears and secretly wish we were more like them. One of the base fears that we all have is the fear of rejection. It ties into our fear of experiencing pain. As a matter of fact, rejection and physical pain are the same to our brain. The reaction to physical pain and rejection is very similar. For example, when someone feels physical pain, opioids are released in the brain so that the significance of the pain is inhibited. And these same opioids are released when someone feels rejected by someone else. I mention this because usually anything amazing that we want to do involves overcoming some form of fear or rejection. For example, if you want to create a new business, there's a fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being publicly humiliated and embarrassed because you're trying to do something and it might not work out. But the rewards of having a successful business can only be reaped by overcoming this fear. So how can we use fear to our advantage and use it to motivate ourselves instead of crippling us? Well, one way is to rewire our relationship with fear and give ourselves negative feedback for remaining stagnant. And this is how you do it. Write down everything you hate about your current circumstance, things that bother you, annoy you, piss you off, and things you can't stand about your current situation. And really let yourself feel this deeply. How would you feel if 5 years from now, you're still exactly where you are right now? How about 10 years? 20 years? What would it feel like if you never hit your goals and stayed exactly where you are right now? Write all this down. The more you go into it, the more you're creating a fear of staying where you are in life. If you can create a bigger fear for remaining where you are than the fear of rejection or failure, you will have rewired your natural fear-based response to your benefit. You will be more afraid of not succeeding than you will be of any kind of rejection or failure you could experience. And that will provide you with an intense surge of urgency and energy. A good example of people who don't use fear properly are guys that don't work on their relationships. We all know someone who is in a long-term relationship or got married because he's not willing to do any better. So he settles for pretty much the one girl that'll have him. One of the reasons for this is that learning how to connect with women and getting better at relationships involves going through a lot of rejection and pain. And most guys are unwilling and too afraid of rejection to do that, and would much rather settle for a mediocre relationship with a mediocre person and rationalize to themselves that they're in love or this is the best person they could find. But deep down inside, they know it's not true, and they know that their fear of pain and rejection is what's keeping them in this relationship. To those guys, you deserve it, bro. You let fear beat you, and you're paying the price. Step number 3 is to recognize and overcome loss aversion. As humans, we are hardwired to be loss averse. For example, if we go back to the hunter-gatherer days, the loss of one day's food could cause death, but the gain of an extra day's food would not cause an extra day of life. So it was much more important that we didn't lose the food we had than it was to gain any more food. This is called loss aversion. Some studies suggest that losses are twice as powerful psychologically as gains, meaning that you will feel twice as bad for losing $10 than you will for finding $10. It's kind of like saying that the pain you experience when you lose $10 is equal in size to the joy you experience when you gain $20. It's because of this cognitive bias that we prefer to avoid losses than get equivalent gains. In our minds, unless the upside to what we're doing is at least twice of what we could lose, we will most likely not even consider doing it. And this kind of upside is extremely difficult to find. It's why most people rationalize their hopes and dreams away, because the chances of losing are so much higher than the chances of them actually achieving their goals. Let's take learning a new skill as an example. If you know anything about learning a new skill, in the beginning you suck at it, and people are afraid of that because they fear that if they suck, others will laugh at them and they will feel embarrassed. The fear of embarrassment significantly outweighs any joy they could get from learning the skill. So they decide that not learning the skill is the best course of action to take, aka they act in a way that avoids loss. It's important for you to realize this and be aware of this cognitive bias. If you're going to achieve anything in life, you're going to have to continuously push against loss aversion and remind yourself of the goal you're after. In conclusion, one thing I'd like to bring to your attention is that in the 3 points that I mentioned, being hold yourself to a higher standard, use fear to your advantage, and recognize and overcome loss aversion, the main takeaway I want you to have in each of these cases is that the power to change is always within you. Years ago, one of my mentors said something that shaped the way I will think for the rest of my life. He said, "Who you give the blame to, you give the power to." If you choose to throw up your hands and say, "Oh, life screwed me," or "It's the government's fault," what you're really doing is being a victim and telling yourself that you're not in control of your own life. The 3 things I mentioned, although natural, are all under your control. If you look at anyone you've ever admired, they achieved big things by doing all 3 of these. If you can find a way to do the same, you will automatically be admired by people you know, desired by women, and have other men wanting to be like you, meaning you will become a quality man. And that's what I want for you, bro. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.